So much. I really am humbled and honored to be here. And Alex, everybody, I don't know if you know my son or not, but he's my campaign manager. He is now and he was before, and boy, what a lot of potential, and he's probably one of the experts in our county now. So if you want to know somebody who's really an expert, talk to my son. He's my youngest. So anyway, and Bree, I want to point her out. She's been out with Alex on the campaign trail, and we definitely have room for you if you want to get your hours in. Hi, how are you? So my name is Jeff Burum. I'm from Bakersfield originally. My mom worked for Union Oil in Oxo, Santa Paula, in the late 60s, early 70s. And my dad, David Burum, and my stepmom were investment bankers for Crawford Systems that was bought out by Wells Fargo in the 80s. I enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1978. And why? Because I wanted to pay for my own college and I wanted to serve my country. Are any of you interested in the military? Okay, there's lots of opportunities. You can Google anything you want. I was in the Air Force for 20 years, from 1978 to 1998, and I enlisted. They made me a corpsman, and I ended up working in the delivery room. I mean, when you're 18 years old, when was the first time you ever touched a baby? That was my first time, and the Air Force taught me how to do it. And right out of training school, I got picked up with a presidential appointment to go to the United States Air Force Academy. And it's like West Point or Annapolis, and so it's very competitive, and you're there. It's a 4-year university, but their mission is to create the future generals. And there's about 4,400 cadets there, and they spend 4 years there. And when you graduate, you're a second lieutenant. When I graduated in 1984, President Ronald Reagan gave me my diploma, very similar to what President Trump did there just last year for all the cadets. Shook everybody's hand, and you have that picture for your whole life, and it stays with you. It really, really does. Guess what my first job in the Air Force was as an officer? Below ground, about 200 feet, up in Grand Forks, North Dakota, not the warmest place on earth. And I was a combat crew commander for Minuteman III nuclear missiles. And a lot of people don't know that we do have the strategic triad here. Submarines, aircraft, right? We have Navy subs, and then we finally have the land-based missiles. A lot of those are being discussed right now and going to hyper-velocity weapons that are conventional, not nuclear, because they can do a lot more damage and they're a lot more deterrent than nuclear weapons, where you just basically wipe out 2 to 4 billion people at a time. That was my first job for 4 years. Very interesting. And then I taught at the United States Air Force Academy. I taught military art and science. And we taught Soviet military doctrine, classical military theory, leadership and ethics, air power theory and doctrine. And as soon as I was done teaching there for almost 4 years, I changed career fields and I became a budget officer because I was working on my certified public accountant degree and license. And so I ended up being the deputy chief of budget up at McCord Air Force Base, which is in Tacoma, Washington. And during that time, it was during the 90s, President Clinton became the president, and we were still dealing with the Middle East. Do you remember Desert Storm? A lot of people think that we've only been in the Middle East since 2003. No, it goes way, way back, like World War I. Okay? Desert Storm wasn't that far back. But that's 100 years ago, right? And we're still over there. Many of the same issues. The Desert Storm was 1990 to 91. And I don't know if you remember a guy named Saddam Hussein, and he had one of his leading henchmen who was called Chemical Ali. And our job, because I was on the follow-on to that, was to protect the Kurds in the north from being chemically gassed, and then the Shia in the south, and protect them from being gassed as well, because they had a northern campaign. We stopped them in the north, just shy of Turkey. They did an about face, came back and wiped out the Shia. I didn't know this, but at the time, 150,000 Shia were wiped out through genocide out in the desert, and I was over in Saudi Arabia as a chief of budget. But not only did we have that, but we had Rwanda, Somalia, Bosnia, and what's common to all those?
Well,
What's common to all those campaigns from an enemy standpoint? Genocide. Genocide. And I'd submit to you, genocide is on the rise. And all you have to do is look at the number of cases. And what is that? From biological, chemical, and nuclear weapons. A lot of people think that weapons of mass destruction are only nuclear. That's ridiculous. Chemical and biological can do a lot more. In fact, I was a victim of that, and I wear many medals for it. I was gassed from sarin, and then also I had 3 pathogens in my body. And for 20 years, I suffered a lot of excruciating pain, didn't know what it was. My teeth were cracking, my spine was curving, and what have you. And they finally admitted it in like around 2008, in spite of many congressional inquiries going back to 1996. And even Bernie Sanders pointed out the obvious lies to our military personnel. It's not the first time, is it? About Vietnam, they're still dealing with Agent Orange. A lot of people guess. When do you think the first time chemical weapons were introduced?
World War I?
That's exactly right. A German scientist introduced it. But people forget about the Japanese too. They were the masters of chemical weapons. And then after that, who really took it on?
The U.S.
The Soviet Union. The Soviet Union and China. And so when we went over there, and people said, okay, we're going to go over there to stop the weapons of mass destruction. That's how they got their weapons. They got it from not only the Soviets and the Chinese, but all the Western countries as well. Why? Because Iraq was fighting Iran, and Iran had been taken over by the Ayatollah with their Islamic revolution in 1979. And they haven't changed yet, but yet they're one of the #1 conveyors of terrorism still today, and we're still dealing with that. And it's so interesting because many Persian people, wonderful people, it's their government that's a problem. Same thing with the Iraqis, it's their government. And so some people say today, oh, we don't want to change regimes. Oh, yes, we do. The people are fine. We have a problem with their regime. Okay, so just something to bring up. So after I retired from the military, I had to give up my career early because I was sick from being exposed to WMDs. I took a year off, seemed to be okay, and I started my own business, certified public accountant. And I did income taxes for individuals, and I started doing businesses, and I started doing business startups, and I started doing retirement plans. Next thing you know, I had some very rich customers, and I still have them today. That was over 20 years ago. And recently I've been a volunteer. Now, why am I telling you this? Because in your careers, in your lifetime, you may not just have one career. You could have many different careers, right? So what's the best way to prepare for that?
Keep an open mind about things that happen in your life?
Yes. Keep an open mind because things can change. Businesses come and go. They come and go, right? And you have common economic cycles, right? Depressions, recessions, economic growth, stability. Those are all normal things, right? How do you keep an open mind? International affairs, political science, Masters in Business Administration, CPA, investment advisor. Are they all the same? You go with the flow and keep up your education. Keep up your education. Right? No matter what, life is a journey, isn't it? Right? So keep reading. Keep interacting with your community. And a lot of you will become leaders in your community. I mean, you probably wouldn't be here if you weren't. You are future leaders. And so, from a dad perspective, from a military perspective, from a political perspective, I'm telling you, we want you to be the best. We want you to be the best. So always try to be the best. Okay? And it will pay off. I promise you, it will pay off. Okay? Now, I've had a long campaign. I've been a public servant for 40 years. And guess what? I'm at your disposal. So don't be bashful. You know, I've been an assistant professor, not only military art and science, but in accounting and finance too. And your instructor tells me the doors are locked. We can talk about anything you want to. You'll get the real Jeff Burum. So the floor is yours. The only thing I ask you to do is, you know, tell me what your name is, and then make sure the question isn't too long. All right? All right, so go ahead. Don't be bashful. Yes.
Well,
What's your name?
My name is Dennis O'Leary.
Dennis?
And it's not a question I would like to give you.
Are you a junior?
Yeah.
I've met you before, haven't I?
Yeah, I was like,
Where did I meet you?
over at the elementary school.
And what happened?
The kid got run over by the
Got
guy.
run over.
That's what I was like, I would like to give you thanks because supporting for more crossing guards at schools.
Should have been done. It should be a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And you don't need to pay all kinds of people. We can put flashing lights up there. It's a no-brainer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Don't you have a question? Because you've got a very interesting background.
Well, no, I was like, I would like to give you thanks, and I was like, I like how you want more like public safety. That's one of the main concerns I have is public safety in order, especially like streetwise.
Mhm.
I was like, I like your point of view on
Well,
that.
what's the number-one responsibility of the government?
Public safety.
And security, right? What kind of books do you read here?
Look at everything.
Okay, well, let me ask you a couple things. Let's talk about what you read here. Is that okay?
Sure.
All right. Have you read the Declaration of Independence?
Yes.
We got that? Isn't that amazing?
Mhm.
What an amazing document. I challenge you to find another document that good. I really do. And that led up to, of course, what? The
Yeah.
Constitution. Right?
Mhm.
Now, who wrote this Declaration of Independence?
Yeah.
Huh?
Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson. But who wrote the Constitution? Do you know? Our founding fathers? Amazing people.
Madison.
Yes, exactly. Very interesting. And who wrote the Federalist Papers? Okay, there's three of them.
Yeah, you got two.
I heard Hamilton and who else?
Madison?
Madison, right? Oh yeah, the last one's a good one. What?
There you go.
John Day.
Right, and what was he? What did he end up doing? What was his first job? Or, well, what he's really renowned for? The first Supreme Court judge, right? And Madison, he became president, right? How about Alexander Hamilton? Shot, high burr, right? But what is he really renowned for?
Secretary of State?
Nope.
Secretary of Treasury?
Yes, the federal bank, right, that you hear coming back. But we needed a national bank, right? We needed a national bank to fund all the activities that were gonna be common to all the states. Okay, what other documents do you read? Anybody read, any communist stuff?
The Communist Manifesto.
Okay, who wrote that?
That's just-
wrote it, it's okay, you can tell me.
Marks?
Yes, it's okay, we can talk, okay?
We can definitely talk, but we do only have about 10 more minutes.
Oh,
so
okay.
We want to shift that campaign soon.
Sure, sure. How about, what did Hitler write?
Mein Kampf.
Mein Kampf, okay. Anybody hear of a guy named Milton Friedman? Wrote the book Free to Choose. Milton Friedman. The reason I'm bringing this up is because you're going to hear a lot of this between now and November, particularly with Bernie Sanders running. Okay, and I just want to make you aware of that. You have two different schools of thought that could be further diverse, more diverse, okay? So I'm just trying to prepare you for that. You'll hear a lot of good discussions, ask a lot of questions, and the amount of information that's out there is fabulous, yes.
My name's Robert Strong.
Hey, Robert.
So my question for you is, what made you change your party preference from Republican to Independent?
Okay, all right. Well, for one thing, President Trump is not a modern Republican, in my opinion. He's an American isolationist Republican, which was dominant before World War II. After World War II, the Republicans picked up being internationalists, and the Democrats became isolationists. Well, look at my major, international affairs. I don't agree with that. And I think that the main way to prevent wars is through international trade. That's what I think. So I differ with him on that particular matter, and that's a big matter. I also believe in Milton Friedman as well. I do not care for the way he's put down veterans at certain times. There's a lot of immigrants here that do not care for the way he's spoken to them as well. But as far as the economy, I'm all in. I am all in because he understands it, just like President Reagan. The way to grow the economy is to reduce taxes, increase the number of jobs, and therefore from that, you have more individualism, which is what American political science is all about. But those are the main reasons. Now, the other reason is because the position itself is legally a non-partisan position. Okay? Now, when I was an officer in the Air Force, we were nonpartisan, and we got a lot of stuff done. We weren't talking about parties. We were talking about getting the most bang for the buck, the most benefit for the dollar, right? And nothing's changed. And in Oxnard, it's 75% Democrat. And if you tell them you're a Republican, forget it. Forget it. So it made a lot of sense for me to change to independent, philosophically as well as politically. Economically, I have not changed one bit, not one bit. Anybody else?
So where's your path? Where's your path to winning a seat on the County Board of Supervisors in a district where there's a 75%, Democratic base, as you say?
Yeah, the path is independent because now people, Republicans, Democrats, it's almost like the Crips and the Bloods, right? It's ridiculous. And they'll talk about what party they belong to and not the issue. And I've always been an issue person. So my path is we're independent, but I'm still very conservative because I have a traditional viewpoint towards the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the amendments, all those things, which most people agree with me on as well. And definitely conservative when it comes to the economy. But my path is, we've got next Tuesday, Super Tuesday. If we win 51% of the vote, it's all done, I'm supervisor. At a minimum, I have to be in the top 2. That's the way the rules work, and then I would be in the general election in November. Did I answer your question?
I do want to also just make note of the fact, especially with Alex here, that feel free to pass something around and get people to sign up for volunteering. No problem with making that pitch for volunteers here.
We would love to have you out there. I think we have a great message. One thing we want to do is create jobs for you. right now, the other side views that only the government can create jobs for you. No. Anybody who knows anything about economics knows that it comes from the private sector. We can make. Do you see socialists coming here or leaving here?
What do you mean?
Or how about immigrants? Let me put it this way. Do you see immigrants leaving here or coming here?
Well,
Really?
because you have more people leaving the United States than before, I think, to go to other countries, but.
Okay,
Is that
why?
what you mean?
Why though? Why would they leave this country?
Various reasons, some for opportunities in other countries, others to get away from this country. I mean, it just depends on the person.
Yeah, because our economy has not been that good, especially here in California. Yes. So they go pursuing better opportunities, right? So we should do our best to create the most amount of opportunities. And how is it? Creating jobs, right? And the opportunities that are out there. People talk about the Industrial Revolution at the beginning of the last century. I can count at least 5 revolutions that are taking place right now. The opportunities are there. Go take them. Don't wait for somebody to give them to you. Be the best you can and go take that job and create a new industry. Elon Musk is one of my favorite people. He's incredible.
Well, no, I know that you're a big fan of trickle-down economics and in more of the way of like Reagan, and you definitely, it sounds like you really approve of the way the Trump administration is handling the economy.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. Don't you feel though that, like how heavy these tax breaks have been to the corporations and how you're seeing the deficit rise partially due to these tax cuts? Don't you see that as concerning?
Okay, first of all, do you know that corporations are double taxed? You don't know that, do you? You just listen to the propaganda out there.
No, I do my own studying and research, but please explain.
Yeah. So when you're a corporation, you fill out your own tax form. It's called an 1120 or an 1120S, right? Forget the 1120S. 1120, you are taxed on that. The money goes to the shareholders or the employees. Then they file their individual taxes, right? Their individual 1040s, and they're taxed again. No, they don't want to talk about that. Okay? And it's wrong. They should talk about the whole thing. And by taking the corporate tax down from 35% to 22%, very fair. Because you have the 22% plus the individual rate, say it's 25. What's 22 and 25? 47. That's the truth. As far as trickle down, you gotta have a job. Trickle down's all about creating jobs. Right? Yeah. So we need more jobs. The government can't do that. Where does the government get their money from? You and the corporations, and they don't want to tell you that either.
I would say that it's one thing to create jobs, but it's really difficult for people to live on minimum wage. How do you, will you raise the minimum, try to help to raise the minimum wage?
I am against the government being involved. If you want to cause the economy to be unaffordable, let the government step in. I can't tell you one thing or one place where A, the government's accountable, or that prices have come down when the government got involved. It went up, not down. That applies to military, that applies to healthcare, Social Security, Medicare, it goes on and on. Okay? So you want limited government. Limited government. The best thing that we can do is to give you a good job. And the best thing you can do is make yourself as valuable as possible to your employer. Or be able to start your own job, your own business. That's how you're going to get rich in America. Because you had a new idea, and then it just blossoms. You create jobs for other people internationally. Exactly. That's the way to do it.
Henry as well, Camarillo has, in Ventura County too, but specifically Camarillo has a large aging population, and they're heavily dependent, of course, on Medicare or Medi-Cal programs. How would having the government not have a say in the funding of these programs, how would that help the community?
Well, let me ask you this. Do more taxes help or hurt seniors?
I'd say they help.
Hurt some. Well, they receive their money. If they have to pay more taxes, that means your income, less taxes, is what you get to use, right? So the worst thing you could do is raise taxes. The worst thing you can do. Also, minimum wage, that causes the whole cost of living to go up. Now, you may be able to ride that cost of living adjustment, but not the seniors. They're on fixed income, right? So you're going up, they're staying this way. What are you doing to the seniors? Be very careful about that.
So what are your views on healthcare? You know, we're the best country in the world and we don't provide healthcare for every citizen as a human right. Every other industrial
You know,
nation provides.
I'm not a believer that healthcare is a right.
Mhm.
It's a need, right?
Yeah.
And I've already explained to you, and we've been talking about this for decades, and there's a reason the way it is. Providing healthcare to everybody is unaffordable. Ask Bernie Sanders.
Mhm.
Okay?
It can.
It's
it can be-
unaffordable
Uh-huh.
because there's no limit to it, right?
Yeah.
Could we provide basic? Yes. Under Obamacare, you want to know what they came up with? Eventually, I think they came up with, okay, 24 million people out of a population of 320 million weren't provided for. But then they tried to impose it on people, and guess what? Millennials, like you, didn't want it because they can't afford to pay for it, and they don't need it, they're young, right? So that left about 7 million people because they have existing preconditions. We can solve that with Medicaid. Medicaid for all is not bad. That's a state program. Medicare for all is a federal program. Very different animals. And Medicare is based on a tax that we've had since 1934 or whatever. So only working people pay for that, right? And then it grows, and then when they become eligible at age 62 and above, then they have that account and they're entitled to it.
Did I just hear you say that you're supportive of Medicaid for all?
Medicaid for all, yeah, who isn't? Medicaid is a state program, and that's very different, right? The Constitution says there are very limited things that the federal government should do. And the 10th Amendment said, for whatever's not enumerated in the Constitution, the states can do. So if they want to do it, let them do it, right? Because our states are experimental. Let each state decide what they want to do. And California has done that, not only for its citizens, but its immigrants, right? Right, so it should be available. And that way you have the best of all worlds.
Okay, we're down to our last 2 minutes. Do you want to give a pitch for what kind of volunteer activity you're looking for?
I'll let Alex